So, hello everyone. My name is Rishikesh Nare, and we welcome you to our special series, The Economic Times Cutting Chai Stories. It's an initiative by ETH. The key to cutting chai conversation is to have good discussion around the areas of your early life: education to grooming, training, business sense, skill augmentation to work life balance. I mean, before we begin, let me set the context right. The Economic Times Cutting Chai is a series of candid conversations where we take you through the inspirational journeys of influential people. We all have seen these personalities in the corporate world, but we're taking them in from the boardroom drama for some time to have some candid conversation. So today we have Mr. Sandeep Agarwal, who is the EVP and COO for Happiest Mind Technologies. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Agarwal. Thanks for your time. And I'm quite excited to have this round of conversation with you and Mr. Krishna going forward. Let me welcome you with a warm message saying that, thank you so much. Thank you for the IT industry to chip in for last 1 year, and that has helped us to scale each and every business that you see today. Your industry, you guys have helped so many people to lose their to not to lose their jobs. They could survive because of work from home, and every single tool that we made and that anybody can think of, that has helped all of us. So again, thank you so much on that part, and to Mr. Krishna as well. So Mr. Agarwal, tell me something about you. It's a very usual question. So which city you belong to, and we can start breaking the ice in between.
Great, Rishi, and thanks to you. Actually, I think it's a wonderful time to be and a pleasure to be part of this particular Cutting Chai Stories. And I hope this audience would love this particular interaction. So I'll go straight from my heart in terms of what you'll hear. So
Yeah.
there is no mind that is going to be applied here. So I leave the mind for the IT and then leave the heart for the discussion. Actually, so let's
Sure.
so where the journey started actually. So I come from a very small town called Lonavala, and that's basically a hill station between Pune and Bombay. Very less known, apart from when Khandala song became famous in the movie. That's when actually the whole Lonavala started actually emerging as a place of destination. But we being born there and stuff like that, being with the nature, seeing that number of rains coming in with the kind of crowd that we saw in the early ages, I think really set me apart in terms of actually just understanding nature to the core and not having that city's kind of environment that allowed people to actually do it. So it was a very good beginning, I would say. Actually, lucky me to be part of that particular city, and I think that growth was fantastic, which we started.
I mean, when you said Lonavala, I stay in
Chicky,
Mumbai, so I know. I mean, it's like tricky. One and second is it's very difficult to study or work in that city because it's so beautiful. You can't get out of
yes,
that beauty, and then you can't divert your mind to something else other than the beauty of that city. I mean, right from your markets to the mountains, you go anywhere.
yes,
That city has a great vibe, and I think whenever I go, I think entire city, we go to Lonavala to relax. But you are the one who actually born and brought up in that city, and you actually worked in that city, you studied in that city. Was it difficult?
yeah, it was. I would say actually because I think we used to see people from Pune and Bombay. Right? Were the two references for us in terms of actually how kids were growing there and stuff like that. And when you were actually being in Lonavala, it's like, okay, we are not getting that particular stuff, but something what we are getting, I'm sure the people would be lacking in, right? So I think I studied from convent, and that was again a wonderful beginning for me, I would say, actually, because again, convent teaches you a lot of discipline at the early stage of your life, actually, and the whole thing about prayers and getting that particular accustomed to a disciplined routine is very different from a government college or government school and stuff like that, right? So I think that was a fantastic start for me. My family was again a middle class family, actually. So my father was running a grocery shop, and that was also a very good particular, I think, a good beginning for me, because I think, as unlike other kids, basically where they got time to play cricket and play games and play all that kind of stuff, our job was basically go to the school, come back, and go to the store directly. And as kids, actually, saw customers from day one, actually, and say, "Oh, you hisab kitab and and business as usual. So you get the business acumen right at your desk. So today also I don't, when I look at it and is happening, and it was fun actually. So I think both my I think the bring up that we got it was an excellent start for me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I understand where one kid coming home after a tiring day of school, and then he's directly getting into a B school in the evening.
Correct.
I mean, that was an advantage for you to learn those things what you might have learned along the way or maybe in your journey, and maybe that recollect you could have recollected so many things where you say, oh ये तो मैंने कर लिया था, बस थोड़ा सा
Correct.
packaging अलग था, now the packaging is different. And
Absolutely. And customer, right? The obsession towards the customer, actually,
yeah,
right? And what it means to earn money. We used to eat chocolate at 5 paisa and 10 paisa and 25 paisa. So basically, you can actually imagine that time that money was so important, and how you actually convince the customer and make him buy a little bit more and then earn that particular day's money for you.
yeah, I mean, I remember, I mean, you have denominations of 5 paisa, 10 paisa, 20 paise, 50 paise, 25 paisa.
Correct.
Oh, today we have just 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 5, 10. Even if you feel, oh, now where do I keep that change? But yeah, sweet days, sweet memories along the way. So, as we know that your B school journey started very early. Anything that when you were sitting in your shop, maybe doing some accounts work or maybe some coordination operation work, would you ever thought that you might move out of the city one day, getting into a different territory altogether and making your mark? I mean, you had this thought in your mind?
Frankly speaking, no, Rishi. Actually, I think the whole journey, I never thought that I will go out of the town. I thought actually my father's business is the only business that I understand, and possibly the only thing that I'm going to continue must be in a better way than what father was doing it. But that's what my end story was. That the end goal, actually, okay, I'll do this in a different way. I'll do wholesale business. I'll do retail. I'll just add on things to that. Actually, add more products, add more services. But that's all. So that was my early start, and but I think my father was clear, Rishi, actually, that I think we are two brothers and one sister. So basically, all three of us, basically, he was very clear that education is something that he needs to focus on. So every step, actually, that focus was there, that you will get educated. Moment we completed 10th, it was like, what next for you? For me, I said engineering, because somebody of my friends said engineering is good. So he said, okay, engineering, you go engineering, actually. So that was the kind of focus that he was giving. I still remember actually the first time when I went outside Lonavala and went to Pune for my diploma, and I did my electrical diploma from Warrior College of Pune. And that fees payment was literally coming to the heart, actually, and I could see that father actually spending that amount. I said, wow, this is something that I have not collected as a whole money. It was very small compared to today's time, 5,000 rupees probably. But just to see that particular amount coming it at the cashier's counter was like, oh man, this is something more, and I need to do something more to actually get that particular amount back for my father.
So, Mr. Agarwal, I mean, please tell us that, because for a usual kid, it is he comes home, he eats, he watches cartoon, and then he doesn't know anything for the entire evening, and again eating and then sleeping. That's the usual, thing that all kids do, and including me. I'm not disassociating myself from this. But as a kid, you mentioned that you used to go to your second B school, and I would not call it a shop, but I would call it a B school, because you learned everything right from
Yes.
accounting, operations, everything. So you had any thoughts of expanding that particular business, or you thought, no, let me just check my abilities in an outside world where the competition is fierce, where there are a lot many players, I get to learn so many things. I mean, what exactly you had in your mind at that point of time?
So definitely, I think in my thought always it was going to expand the business, but I think father was very clear in terms of what he wanted to do. So he had heard about three things actually: being a doctor, being an engineer, and being a lawyer. Right. So that's the only three things that he had in mind. And looking at our sons, and he used to say, okay, who wants to become doctor, who wants to become engineer, and who wants to become the lawyer? So luckily my elder brother chose the doctor line, and I choose the engineer line. My son tried
It's
to
just,
do whatever he wanted to do actually from a lawyer point of view, but he ended becoming a chartered accountant for whatever reason. He went to pharma and then decided pharma is not good for him, and then he became a chartered accountant actually. So that's how we landed out of the particular business. And it was, I think, more of it my father's dream that he does not wanted us to be in that particular shop, uh, be school for that whatever reasons actually. And he said, just find your way and get out of this particular stuff.
and
Always like a 12 hours to 14 hours, right? We used to open the shop at 7:30 8 a.m. in the morning, and then it used to go like 10 o'clock in the night. And there's no weekends and off days and whatever actually. Off the one off day you used to get it is basically for purchasing, because you used to go and purchase from Pune and then get it to Lonavala and sell it.
so, do you still have that shop?
No, actually, we allowed father to actually shut it down 5 years. And he said, boss, enough actually. Till 5 years back, he was doing it. Even if you're all three were settled, he was still running the shop.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a dean of that particular institute. As I said, there, he forced you guys to learn everything. So, how would you describe yourself as a student in school? Were you mischievous, or were you the studious one? Or were you the one who could hit the right balance and would never get into trouble?
So I was a quiet person actually. I don't think today also when I go and do the talks and stuff, my school friends looks at me and say, Sandeep, is that you? So definitely nobody had expectation. We used to just do whatever it is there, not getting into any of the controversies, any of the fights and stuff like that. Just do whatever it is there and come back. We used to get our home tiffin, home delivered from a particular home. And then one person used to come and bring all the tiffins together and all that particular thing. So we have seen all that thing. So our only thing was actually how do we finish the particular school, come back home, take a bath, and then basically go to the shop and see what you can support particular point of time.
Yeah, but your exposure towards the customers, I think it happened way back in days, and
Yes,
I think, and so now going forward, when you talk about your CV, just don't mention that you started working after say 24 to 20. Say, tell everybody that I've started working from the age of 9, 10, so my experience. So,
absolutely.
so, do you find any resemblance in the pattern of customers? I mean, you must be dealing with a different set of customers today, and you must have interacted with completely different set of people in your childhood days. But do you find any resemblance in the pattern, the way they demand their things, they expect future to deliver something? So,
Absolutely. I think the service was the main item, Rishi, actually. If you look at it, whether I was at the shop and whether I'm today doing it, whatever I'm doing, the service component still remains the same, right? If there were four customers coming into the shop, they were looking at me and that kid there, and then basically seeing how soon he can service so that we can take that particular product home as fast as possible, actually, right? And you were trying to juggle and say, okay, how do I optimize even that particular stuff to quickly do 3 4 actions and then basically service that customer so that nobody feels happy or nobody goes to another shop just because you are getting delayed at that particular shop, right? The time was an essence in terms of that particular stuff. Negotiation was another thing that I learned pretty early on, actually, because any customer, even for that 25 paisa, it was like, can you give me that extra chocolate free from that particular bottle? And you have to actually deal with it and say, how do I save my chocolate?
I mean, Mr. Agarwal, you're being unfair to all of us because you started learning. I mean, right? So I heard now customer retention policy, um, how to incentivize your customer, how to provide options so he does not go anywhere else. I mean, there are so many things that
Yes.
you got to learn in your childhood days. I mean, I have this question in my mind. I mean, did you ever play? Did you ever enjoy? I mean, definitely you must have. But now I need to know which part of the day you enjoyed the most.
So I I enjoyed the most when the crowd was there at the shop, right? And that somebody would not enjoy it actually because you want to do in sequence. But the multitasking aspect is only happens when there is a crowd, right? and I used to really enjoy it actually. And there was a lot of customers actually who used to come and say, "अगर ये kid है उधर तो मैं चला जाऊंगा," actually, because I know I'll get particular service. So that was good. Second thing I learned about is language also. Actually, we speak Hindi in our home, but at the shop, because it was in Maharashtra, it was in Lonavala, it was Marathi, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I had to actually learn Marathi, not in school, but really learn Marathi in the shop and then deal with people, because language was the essence in terms of communication, actually. And okay, when I got in the 10th, actually, I was the highest scorer in Marathi. I said, where did I particularly?
Again, you're being unfair to everybody. And people were thinking, यार मतलब 100 कर लो यार मराठी में कैसे आ सकते हैं यार? He's Agarwal.
Absolutely. Today also, when I talk to Marathi with the Marathi friends, I said, Marathi कहाँ से सीखा यार? I have so many friends actually, even with Pune, and but coming from Hindi community, they don't understand that much Marathi. They can understand, but they can't talk. I said, your Marathi is so fluent. बोला भैया ये तो बचपन से सीखा है.
So this was your childhood around your 10th. Then when have you started your college days? I mean, is it a part of your schooling curriculum, like 10 plus 2, same school?
Yeah.
Or
So no, I did 10 plus 3 plus 3. So I did my diploma in electrical engineering and then second year direct admission to degree. And that too also was new actually. I completed diploma. I didn't know what electrical means. So father said actually this is the only one that they have. You have to do engineering. I don't care which engineering actually. So you do electrical actually. So I did electrical. Then I came to know that transformers and all is not my particular baby. I can't deal with those wires and high tension cable lines and all that thing actually. So I want electronics, the miniature things actually. I've heard a lot about electronics. I want to get it. And Pune University had a rule that they didn't allow an electrical engineer to go to the second year electronics that time. And only Shivaji University had that particular direct entry. So I went to Satara. I did my particular electronics degree. And I think that also taught me a lot, because that's the first time I went out of my particular home, always feeling that when will I come home and do the shop. So even if you look at my Pune journey, any holidays with more than 3 days was there, I was back home at Lonavala in my shop. Really again.
it's a dream circuit that you can spend your childhood plus your young days. I mean, Lonavala, then you move to Pune and then Satara. I mean, beautiful cities, beautiful weather.
Absolutely.
Uh, and then when did Mumbai call you?
Yeah, so Mumbai was again a very great experience. So after Satara, actually, I did. So I took one small job after my particular college in Pune, and I was doing this digital LED lightings that used to happen on that particular stuff. So I was a trainee there. कुछ कंप्यूटर समझ में नहीं आता था. What is mouse? What is computer? I didn't had any understanding of that. Neither my engineering taught me about what a computers means and stuff like that. I did electronic circuits, but computer नहीं देखा था कभी. So so I did that particular stuff. I did an innovation that time actually. So in 94, I basically created one LED speedometer for the bikes. And that was my own particular thing of doing something, and said, let me do this particular stuff. And I went to Bajaj, an auto industry, you right? Pune is an auto industry. So I used to went
Right.
to, yes, I went to Bajaj, I went to and said, this is something is that, and nobody was actually entertaining. So that was another learning actually, saying that was good things, but people are not ready to do it. So you have to do a lot more things actually. So I said, okay, fine. This is not my cup of tea. I don't think I can go into the ideation out at this particular point. So I dropped that idea. And then I joined CDAC actually. And that I think was a turning point in my life, because that was the second year of advanced computing that CDAC was offering in Pune University. It was run by the professors who built the Param computers, supercomputers, and things like that. So it was a direct reference from them. It was a 6 months course, almost 18 hours per day that we used to do the lab work, understand computer, understand OS, fundamentals, everything. So that was a time where I really got a pulse of what does computers means, what does language means, what does this particular thing mean, right? And that from that campus, I landed to Mumbai as my first job in Tata Unisys. And that's where the journey whole started.
I mean, just now, I'm just going back to the conversation you mentioned about LED lights, right? And
Yes.
what year was that?
This was 94.
94. You know something?
Right? LED displays.
I'm saying that you knew about LED lights in 1994. In India, LED lights, it's still an option on a vehicle. So,
Yes,
I mean, that is how you were exposed to the technology, and you tried your luck, right? But
yes.
that time they said no. But now every single bike of Bajaj they have
I
the
saw
LED
that.
lights.
I saw that. Maybe I was too
That's the
early.
USP. Nowadays, the
Yes,
last part, last bit, when you go to the showrooms, the last they say that oh, and it has so for LED DRLs, it's a fancy,
correct.
terminology. LED DRL for your bikes, it's sir, बहुत अच्छा है ये LED का ना white throw बहुत लंबा जाता है ये halogen इतना इतना अच्छा नहीं है. And that becomes the USP of
USP.
the vehicle. So yeah, they turned down a very good opportunity. But yeah, they're evolving, and you too evolved after that. So after your first job, what was the feeling in your mind that okay, I have been to around 3 to 4 cities. Now, what do I do? Should I stop
Yes,
here, or should I just continue my legacy and just keep roaming the world and enjoy walks of life and understand people, understand consumer better? Eventually, that will
right,
help you
right.
serve them better. And as you rightly mentioned, if you serve them better, they're yours.
Absolutely. For life, actually, right? And some of this relationship just goes on and on. And I'll talk about it in the future, what happened. But after joining Tata Unisys, I was lucky actually. Till that point, I also say that I have not decided basically which direction I would go. I used to still come on the weekend from Bombay because Bombay Lonavala, it's a pretty quick travel actually, whether you take a bus or you take a train and you are there at Lonavala. So my still inclination was that how can I serve the same business and put that. But luckily, within a year's time, I got an opportunity from TCS, that was a sister firm for Tata Infotech, and they got a large opportunity to do a project with Lucent Technologies in US. And they were scouting for C++ people actually, and the entire Tata Unisys, you'll not believe, there were only 7 people that time. That means seven C++.
But they offer that course.
At least we could spell that particular C++ actually. So we were all like, okay, you know C++, so you're part of the bandwagon. And you got that. So I got to H1B actually. And my first flight anywhere was an international flight actually. So when I landed into that particular flight, it was my first US flight. I've not
Oh.
taken before that, no car, no particular flight actually. So it was like, oh man, this is first time I'm
Yeah,
thinking
exactly.
alone, actually, and nobody was there to take care of it and say, how will I stay with this particular stuff without a family bonding? Nobody known that particular stuff. But I think that opened up the whole perspective, a different perspective for me on that particular life. Lucent definitely was a great, great company actually, because the way they treated all different cultures, the particular ethics and stuff like that, right? I think there was a lot of Indian community, Chinese community, and it was a big mix. And it was a 600 people project. We today talk about distributed agile, and that time without the agile word, we were actually doing distributed agile with at least 7 countries that the project was running in, and it was fun just with the same telephone, right? No conference call, no video call, and stuff like that. Just get into the particular stuff and do the call and do that. So that opened up a big possibility of what things happens, how companies work, what is their processes. And telecom is always up on quality, right? So they serve on 5 nines, which basically means that they don't compromise on any quality. And that's where you really get into understanding of how quality has to be done in terms of the delivery project, people, particular stuff. Almost every single festival, even Indian festival or Chinese festival, was celebrated with the same particular rhythm what they used to celebrate Christmas and New Year's. And that again was the big thing actually. So I just used that opportunity. I started roaming the car. First thing I went and took the car. I didn't know driving. I didn't knew what to do with that particular stuff. So I just two classes. I took it because it was very very costly. My salary was $850 for the month, and I said I could not afford a full training and stuff like that. Actually, just took two classes, but then started driving, and then it was actually not looking back. So we just kept on driving. I did so many trips actually, because Chicago was my place actually where I landed. But then from Chicago to the West Coast, I have driven. Chicago to the East Coast, I have driven. All particular stuff.
It's far. It's
Yeah,
far.
it's
It's
very
far.
very fun. Yes.
Have you ever, I mean, as we see in most of our Hollywood movies, where, cop, they blinks you one light and then you have to pull over. So that has that happened to you?
Oh,
And do you?
I do remember actually. One night driving with four of my friends actually, and four of them, all four were dead asleep actually at that particular. And I didn't knew in what rhythm I was driving. So I was driving at 220,
Lovely.
and the cop guy actually intervenes and comes near to me and say, "Do you know how much time I was there following you?" I said, "No, sir, I didn't realize. Generally, I check on my particular back window, but I was just going, so I didn't check. He said, 15 minutes I'm following you."
Oh, I mean, both the vehicles are 200. Like one is chasing another one with no intention, but just to tell you that you're going too faster.
Yeah, and then he was a humorous guy actually. So we had few chit chat and stuff. Definitely, he gave the ticket. That was my that I got it, $1,500. And he said, "Boss, I'm just saving you from going to the jail. So hopefully you should be happy about with that particular thing." So that was
I
after
mean,
that.
that's an iPhone. I would say
Yeah,
$1,500. It's the most expensive iPhone is cheaper than your first ticket.
yeah. The Motorola phones used to cost that much that time, right? So
Yeah.
that was very very costly. So it was like $1,500, two times of my salary, 2 months salary actually to be given immediately. But then again, I think that was
Yeah, I mean, come on, I mean, the kind. I mean, I can sense it now. The kind of person you are, you wouldn't mind paying $1,500 to drive that vehicle for at 200 kilometers per hour. I mean, that journey is priceless. That stint is priceless. When you started and just cruising at 200, because this is something that we hardly get to drive with that speed. Um,
absolutely. And that was my first long distance after I took the license, right? So it's like fun.
I mean, thank God you had license at that point of time.
Yes, that is
Otherwise,
true, actually, and that was failure.
I mean, so, and then post US, where did you move?
So I was there for 3.5 years in US. So I went through Tata, but I changed my job and joined Lucent formally. And then basically again, I skipped the bond what Tata had in terms of actually sending people off on site and all that thing. And I came back. I took the Lucent India offer in Bangalore. Actually, they had the Bell Labs Innovation Center. So I said, 99, I've done enough. I want to go back. So I was in that particular zone that enough of US. I don't think I'm the person who's going to stay in US for a long time. And so now it's about marriage and stuff like that. Let's go and settle back in India. So that's where I came to Bangalore. And 99 was my particular time. So 21 years in Bangalore right now. And I started with a big project in Wipro. So when I came down, actually Lucent handed over because I was there at Lucent Deploy, and they handed over a project and say, anyways, you're going to India for good. Why don't you go and take this project and execute in Wipro? So I was the Lucent customer sitting at Wipro office and then basically executing the customer. As a customer, I was actually behaving, and we
Okay.
set up a 25 people team. So I have to respond to my bosses actually how things are going. At the same time, I have to be customer to get the work done. So that basically opened up again thing because as a customer, you do get respect, especially with a company like Wipro and stuff like that. I got the highest respect. A lot of the leaders I came to know because they used to come and talk to me, take my particular views about what's happening, what we can do better and stuff like that. So within that short stint, 6 months, I got to know almost majority of the leaders there. And when Mindtree was beginning, it was an easy moment for me because I knew Lucent people, so Bakshi and all, and I knew the Wipro team. And for me, it was an easy ride to come to Mindtree as a startup. And that was another journey to start with in Mindtree as a startup.
I mean, again, that's illustrious. That's extensive. I mean, after hearing these facts, one question that I would definitely want to ask you that, if given an opportunity, if you can go back to, back in days with some time machine that we assume that we have, what is the message that you would want to give to the youngest Mr. Agarwal? Would you say that do the same thing that you're doing, you will be on a correct path one day, or you would advise something which is different? What would you tell young Mr. Sandeep Agarwal?
Very difficult. If I want to talk to my son today and explain to him, I think he's in a different world, right? I think it's easy to talk to somebody outside rather than to talk to your younger Agarwal, actually. He has seen everything, right? He has seen my particular stuff, and here he hears the story when I go to our family place and mother and father talk about what I used to do. And it was not only the shop, right? I used to cook actually, and because my mother was alone, so I used to okay, fine, in the evening cook something and all that thing also. So home service was also there. So he's free, but I don't think the young generation today has that particular stuff in terms of getting through that particular grind. I think they have been given blessed with whatever they could. But my message will be there that I think, irrespective of the money that you have and stuff like that, I think if you go through this particular and self explore and open up yourself, I think the learning that you will carry will be a lot more than somebody guiding you and taking it through the path, right? Because in this place, you discover yourself. At every point of time, you discover yourself, and that's something good. And what I've learned is basically, I think having expectations is not the right thing. So just do things and things will follow actually. The moment you have the expectations and you don't meet it, that's where your unhappiness starts coming in your particular life actually, because you feel, oh, I wanted to be scoring first and I've not scored first. That's an expectation gap, and you start feeling sad about it actually. So I use this wonderful thing actually. If you see this energy and intensity matrix, you can look at that particular stuff. It's a very good four quadrant where basically it says positive energy on one side, negative energy on one side, and the top intensity on the north side and the low intensity on the lower side, right? So that's a quadrant. And then basically when you map actually, when you are at a high energy with a positive focus, you are in the happiness zone,
Right.
right? While you are into the low energy, but still positive, you are in a relaxed zone. You want to be actually just feel relaxed, no energy, but very right? And then you have a anger which comes with very high energy but very negative energy. That's where the anger starts playing a role. And with low energy, with the negative energy, it's a sadness where you basically don't feel good about it, but you're not expressing it, but you're feeling sad about it, right? And what I've learned is basically the moment I'm in some situation, and if I map myself into that four quadrant and say, today, where do I stand? And is it my intensity high? Is it my energy positive or particular stuff? And quickly take back to my relaxed state actually, which just basically over my energy, but keep a positive attitude about it, right? And from that relax, I can go to the high performing zone again with just a push of the energy. So that allows me to have that self motivation rhythm without actually worrying about anybody else. I can self evaluate and I can self introspect in terms of where I stand and quickly get into the zone that I want to be really in all the time.
I mean, you must create an application which calculates whatever you just explained. I mean, it makes your whole everybody's life easier. I mean, you
Absolutely.
have your, you will have to just say that this is an app. You decide what you want in life. Just do that. It's a 1 minute thing, but you will be sorted here, right here in your mind,
Yes.
and you will be able to take better decisions. So, guys, that was Sandeep Agarwal for you. I mean, he's a true wanderer. He is relentless when it comes to harnessing new skills, be it family owned shop or managing complex work assignment or maybe writing a book. Being curious, that is his success mantra. So if you want to do anything in your life, you want to be successful, that's the simplest thing that someone could do is be curious. Thank you so much.